Tablet 2 of Atrahis, myths of Mesopotamia. 600 years, less than 600 passed, and the country became too wide, the people too numerous. The country was as noisy as a bellowing bull. The god grew restless at their clamor. Enlil had to listen to their noise. He addressed the great gods. The noise of mankind has become too much. I'm losing sleep over their racket. Cut off food supplies to the people. Let the vegetation be to scant their hunger. Let Adad wipe away his rain. Below let no flood water flow from the springs. Let wind go, let it strip the ground bare. Let clouds gather, but not drop rain. Let the fields yield a diminished harvest. Let Nisaba stop her blossom. No happiness shall come to them. Let there be dejected. A gap of 34 lines to the end of the column, and then a gap of 12 lines at the beginning of a column. Call the elders, the senior men. Start an uprising in your house. Let heralds proclaim. Let them make a loud noise in the land. Do not revere your gods. Do not pray to your goddess. Search out the door of Adad. Bring a baked loaf into his presence. May the flour offering reach him. May he be shamed by the presence and wipe away his hand. Then he will make a mist form in the morning, and in the night he will steal out and make dew drop. Deliver the field of his produce ninefold like a thief. They built a temple for Adad in the city, ordered heralds to proclaim and make a loud noise in the land. They did not revere their gods, did not pray to their goddess, but searched out the door of Adad, brought a baked loaf into his presence. The flour offering reached him. He was shamed by the presence and wiped away his hands. He made mist form in the morning, and in the night he stole out and made a dewdrop. Delivered the field of its produce ninefold like a thief. The drought left them. The gods went back to their regular offerings. Not 3 epochs had passed. The country became too wide, the people too numerous. The country was as noisy as a bellowing bull. The gods grew restless at their noise. Enlil organized his assembly again. Addressed the gods, his sons. The noise of mankind has become too much. Sleep cannot overtake me because of their racket. Command that Anu and Adad keep the air above earth locked. Sin and Nergal keep the middle earth locked. As for the bolt that bars the sea, Ea with his Iamu creatures shall keep it locked. He ordered, and Anu and Adad kept the air above earth locked. Sin and Nergal kept the middle earth locked. And for the bolt that bars the sea, Ea with his Iamu creatures kept it locked. Then the very wise man Atrahis wept daily. He would carry a Mashaku offering along the riverside pasture, although the irrigation water was silent. Halfway through the night he offered a sacrifice. As sleep began to overtake him, he addressed the irrigation water. May the irrigation water take it, may the river carry it. May the gift be placed in front of Ea, my lord. May Ea see it and drink of me, and think of me. So may I see a dream in the night. When he had sent the message by water, he sat facing the river and he wept. The man wept facing the river, as his plea went down to the Apsu. Then Ea heard his voice. He summoned his Iamu creatures and addressed them. Above, rain did not fill the canals. Below, flood water did not flow from the springs. Earth's womb did not give birth. No vegetation sprouted. People did not look. The dark pasture land was bleached. The broad countryside filled up with alkali. In the first year they ate old grain. In the second year they depleted the storehouse. When the third year came, their looks were changed by starvation, their faces covered with scabs like malt. They stayed alive by life. Their faces looked sallow. They went out in public hunched, their well-set shoulders slouched, their upstanding bearing bowed. They took a message from Atrahis to the gods. In front of the assembly of the great gods they stood, and the orders of Atrahis they repeated. In front of, then comes a gap of about 32 lines to the end of the column. 600 years, less than 600 years passed. The country became too wide, the people too numerous. He grew restless at their noise. Sleep could not overtake him because of their racket. Enlil organized his assembly, addressed his gods, his sons. The noise of mankind has become too much. I have become restless at their noise. Sleep cannot overtake me because of their racket. Give the order that Shurupa disease shall break out. Let Namta put an end to their noise straight away. Let sickness, headache, Shurupa, Ashaku blow into them like a storm. They gave the order, and Shurupa disease did break out. Namta put an end to their noise straight away. Sickness, headache, Shurupa, Ashaku blew into them like a storm. The thoughtful man, Atrahis, kept his ear open to his master Ea. He would speak with his god, and his god Ea would speak with him. Atrahis made his voice heard and spoke, said to Ea, his master, O Lord, people are grumbling. Your sickness is consuming the country. O Lord Ea, people are grumbling. Sickness from the gods is consuming the country. Since you created us, you ought to cut off sickness, headache, Shurupu, and Ashaku. Ea made his voice heard and spoke, said to Atrahis, order the heralds to proclaim, to make a loud noise in the land. Do not revere your gods, do not pray to your goddess, withhold his rites, the flower as an offering. To her presence say a prayer, the presence his hand. Enlil organized his assembly, addressed his gods, the gods his sons. You are not to inflict disease on them again, even though the people have not diminished. They are more than before. I have become restless at their noise. Sleep cannot overtake me because of their racket. Cut off food from the people. Let vegetation be too scant for their stomachs. Let Adad on high make his rain scarce. Let him blow below, and not raise flood water from the springs. Let the field decrease its yield. Let Nisaba turn away her breast. Let the dark fields become white. Let the broad countryside breed alkali. Let earth clamp down her womb, so that no vegetation sprouts, no grain grows. Let Ashaku be inflicted on the people. Let the womb be too tight to let a baby out. They cut off food for the people. Vegetation became too scant for their stomachs. Adad on high made his rain scarce, blocked below, and did not raise flood water from the springs. The field decreased its yield. Nisaba turned away her breast. The dark fields became white. The broad countryside bred alkali. The earth clamped down her womb. No vegetation sprouted, no grain grew. Ashaku was inflicted on the people. The womb was too tight to let a baby out. Ea kept guard over the bolt that bars the sea, together with his Elam heroes. Above, Adad made his rain scarce, blocked below, and did not raise flood water from the springs. The field decreased its yield. Nisaba turned away her breast. The dark fields became white. The broad countryside bred alkali. Earth clamped down her womb. No vegetation sprouted, no grain grew. Ashaku was inflicted to the people. The womb was too tight to let a baby out. Here comes a gap of 2 lines. When the second year arrived, they had depleted the storehouse. When the third year arrived, the people's looks were changed by starvation. When the fourth year arrived, their upstanding bearing bowed, their well-set shoulders slouched. People went out in public, hunched over. When the fifth year arrived, a daughter would eye her mother coming in. A mother would not even open her door to her daughter. A daughter would watch the scales at the scale of her mother. A mother would watch the scales at the sale of her daughter. When the sixth year arrived, they served up a daughter for a meal, served up a son for food. Only one or two households were left. Their faces were covered with scabs like malt. People stayed alive by life. The thoughtful man Atrahis kept his ear open to his master Ea. He would speak with his god, and his god Ea would speak with him. He left the door of his god, put his bed right beside the river, for even the canals was quite silent. There comes a gap of 25 lines. When the second year arrived, they had depleted the storehouse. When the third year arrived, the people's looked were changed by starvation. When the fourth year arrived, their upstanding bearing bowed, their well-set shoulders slouched. People went out in public, hunched over. When the fifth year arrived, a daughter would eye her mother coming in. A mother would not even open her door to her daughter. A daughter would watch the scales at the sale of her mother. A mother would watch the scales at the sale of her daughter. When the sixth year arrived, they served up a daughter for a meal, served up a son for food. Only one or two households were left. Their faces were covered with scabs like malt. The people stayed alive by life. They took a message, ended, and the order of Atrahis, saying, "How long?" Then comes a gap of 36 lines to the end of the tablet. He, Enlil, was furious with the Igigi. We, the great Anuna, all of us, agreed together on a plan. Anu and Adad were to guard above. I was to guard the earth below, where Enki went. He was to undo the chain and set us free. He was to release, produce for the people. He was to exercise control by holding the balance. Enlil made his voice heard and spoke to the vizier Nusku. Have the 50 Lamu heroes fetched for me. Have them brought into my presence. The 50 Lamu heroes were fetched for him. The warrior Enlil addressed them. We, the great Anuna, all of us, agreed together on a plan. Anu and Adad were to guard above. I was to guard the earth below. Where you went, you were to undo the chain and set us free. You were to release produce for the people. You were to exercise control by holding the balance. The warrior Enlil, and then comes a gap of 34 lines. Adad made his rain pour down, filled the pasture land and clouds field. Do not feed his people. Do not give Nisaba's corn luxury for people to eat. Then the god grew anxious, as he sat in the gods' assembly where we ignored at him. Enki grew anxious as he sat in the gods' assembly where we ignored at him. They were furious with each other, Enki and Enlil. We, the great Anuna, all of us agreed together on a plan. Anu and Adad were to guard above, I was to guard the earth below. Where you went, you were to undo the chain and set us free. You were to release the produce for the people. You were to exercise control by holding balance. The warrior Enlil, then comes a gap of 30 lines. You imposed your loads on man. You bestowed noise on mankind. You slaughtered the god together with his intelligence. You must and create a flood. It is indeed your power that shall be used against your people. You agreed to the wrong plan. have it reversed. Let us make far-sighted Enki swear an oath. Enki made his voice heard, and spoke to his brother gods. Why should you make me swear an oath? Why should I use my power against my people? The flood that you mentioned to me, what is it? I don't even know. Could I give birth to a flood? That is Enlil's kind of work. Let him choose. Let Shulat and Hanish march ahead. Let Erakal pull out the mooring poles. Let Ninurta march. Let him make the weirs overflow. Gap of 2 or 3 lines to the end of the column, and then comes a gap of 31 lines. The assembly do not listen to. The gods gave an explicit command. Enlil performed a bad deed to the people. There comes the catch line. Atrahis made his voice heard and spoke to his master. And then comes tablet 3.